Hello and welcome to Crucible of Worlds for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing lands, but with lands with a little bit of new spice, and that spice is Freestrider Lookout. This is one of the cards that I suggested might be playable in Legacy from the new set, and somebody has 5-0'd League with it, so it's my duty to show you lovely people exactly what this card can do. So this is a 3-mana 3/3 with reach. Whenever you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library, you put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. You only get this ability once each turn, but that's once in your turn and once in your opponent's turn potentially. So the way we're going to trigger this is things like Punishing Fire, Wasteland, Maze of Ith, Karakas, Otawara, Boseiju. We've also got an Aether Spellbomb too. And we get to recur all our lands using our usual card advantage from lands of Crucible and Life from Loam. So we should be able to rip through our deck quite quickly and find the pieces we need. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. As the rest of the deck, it's pretty much what you expect from lands. So we've got our standard land package of Crop Rots and Exploration. This particular build has gone for a Punishing Fires package. We've got our main win conditions of Urza, Saga, Thespian Stage Depths, with a little Urza Saga package with some Graveyard Hate, some life gain, nice little Pithing Needle, Expedition Map, and Spellbomb we mentioned before. We are dipping into blue, so we have Otawara as an answer for stuff, as well as some cards in the sideboard. And, you just got some mana sources and a bunch of utility lands. And no doubt you've seen lands decks play out before. I'm a big fan. I used to play lands a long time ago now, but this is a deck I used to play back when Tabernacle was only like 150 quid instead of 3 grand or whatever it is now. But I do enjoy the way that this deck approaches playing Magic in a different fashion to normal decks. We're not just trying to play threats and do stuff. We're a weird control deck, but we're using just lands for it. Anyway, quick chat about the sideboard. We've got some blue spells to leverage our blue lands, so to try and beat the combo matchups that are notoriously pretty good against lands. You see some lands players playing Sphere of Resistance even in the main deck, but this build is opting to have some blue spells in the sideboard. We've got some Graveyard Hate, which can also be a threat in the form of Endurance. Got Kozilek's Return, so we can sweep away a load of creatures. Sylvan Library if we need some card advantage, so post board when we're worried about our Loams getting surgicaled or just having our graveyard inaccessible, Sylvan Library can help out. And a couple of Force of Figures and a Haywire Might to blow up some problem permanents. And yeah, that's it. That's the deck. Like and subscribe, and let's see how good this Freestrider Lookout really is. Alright, our opening hand lacks a green mana source, so I don't think I want to keep this one. This one does have a green mana source and an Urza Saga. There's lots of stuff that I want to do in this hand. So I will keep this. And I think I'm more inclined to bottom this Expedition map. It's also Expedition map or the Crop Rotation. Crop Rotation is instant speed, so I'm more inclined to keep that one because we can go and get a Bojuka Bog and mess with Reanimate shenanigans. I think I will play out our green source just in case we need to do that. And if our opponent wastelands, we at least have a Crop Rotation to go and fire into like a basic forest or whatever. Wooded Foothills, so no wasteland for us to worry about. What flavour of Wooded Foothills deck are we going to be? Could be Painter. Okay, it's not Painter. Could be like Naya Depths or Maverick. A Noble Hierarch. This makes me not really want to just be firing off the wasteland. Well, Punishing Fires is good. That does change things. Do I think our opponent is Bant? With the Wooded Foothills, I don't believe so. So what we can do here is I kind of want to get the Life from Loam in the mix and have access to another green land. So I think we go Crop Rotate away this tropical island. We go and get ourselves the Grove here. And we just start getting our Life from Loam up and running. So next turn, if we want to, we can Punishing Fire and Wasteland. Or we can just start churning out some Saga tokens. We've got a reasonable selection of options available. This way we can't be wastelanded off of green either, so we're just getting that extra green source underneath us. Even though we only drew 1 card from the Life from Loam this time around, I think securing that, the ability to have more green drops through Wasteland, as well as having the Punishing Fire up and running for next turn. Since our opponent is clearly on the creature strategy. It's going to be a Knight of the Reliquary. It could be a little bit awkward in this situation. A Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay. Intriguing. I think I will dredge Life from the Loam this turn. We'll leave our graveyard popped out. Okay, so there's another wasteland there. This ticks up. It's not going to be making very large creatures is the problem. So we can start punishing fire stuff down, or we can just try and make some bigger creatures. I think I'm a fan of making bigger creatures. Obviously, the first one's just going to be a 1-1, so it's not going to get anywhere. But after that, we can really start growing. And if we need to do an emergency punishing fire for something, we can do that. Plateau from our opponent. So we can kill this if we want to with the Exalted Trigger on a stack, but I don't think that's where I want to be. If we can just make some bigger creatures... Now we've got double Sagas, which is pretty strong. We can afford to take a little bit of damage here and there. Crimson Zenith where X equals 3. This is likely to be a Knight of the Reliquary, which is a real problem. Because this can get some scary things that mess us up pretty badly. Let's see what we draw, and then we can decide what we're doing with our Saga. A Soul Guide Lantern. That is a good draw here. Would I have preferred to get it from the Urza Saga? Possibly. That will float. And what are we getting here? We get a Pithing Needle, but if we've got the Soul Guide Lantern already, that allows us to Punishing Fire down the Knight of the Reliquary right now. So I think we just get the Expedition map. Just save up some plans for the future. So I think we're playing out this Urza Saga. Play out this Soul Guide Lantern. Now the correct way to sequence this is to shoot our opponent's creature and then crack this. Because then there'll always be an empty stack. If we shoot this first, so we crack this and then shoot this, they could put another card in the graveyard. They just don't get to do that by the way we're going to do our timings here. So once this goes, state-based effects will kill this before they get priority to do anything. And now we have a 2-2. We're probably not blocking here. So I guess we're probably sending in an attack. Because they're going to attack with a 3-3. So if we're not blocking, we're attacking. I don't think it's worth trying to save 3 damage here. I'd like access to more red mana. Really like an exploration, to be honest. Bojuka Bog is pretty solid here. It's going to lose us our Punishing Fire. Exploration would be a good draw here. That would allow us to Wasteland and Tabernacle in its turn cycle. Now, these treasure tokens are certainly making Tabernacle a little bit easier to pay for. Oh dear, what is this? A Fury. That's a pretty large customer, isn't it? And they can copy this next turn with Reflection. A Mox Diamond. So we can get Tabernacle, we can get Boseiju. So Boseiju can kill this Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. Then we'll still be taking 6, 7, 8. If we get the Tabernacle, Wasteland them, they still pay for all of their guys, and then if they have a land in hand, we die next turn. Maze of Ith doesn't stop them from hitting us with 2 things. I think it has to be the Boseiju here, which is not really how I wanted to play this one. So are we keeping... I think we want to have the Wasteland in play rather than the Mox Diamond. Mox Diamond is additional red mana, which is pretty relevant here. It does make our Sagas better. Alright. I convinced myself. We can always get this Wasteland back anyway with the Loam. Let's get rid of those Reflections. We're still taking 6, 7, 8. And we got 1 turn to try and find something that helps us out of this spot. We don't have any Glacial Chasm style cards to just say no to damage for a few turns. That's all fallen out of favour in the lands matchups. Like, there's so many threats that you get to play now in lands because of Urza Saga that you don't really need Glacial Chasm. Obviously, we're in a situation now where it could possibly help us out. Alright, they're just coming in for 8 this way. They can come in for 8 either way. I'm surprised they didn't come in with the Shaman just to get the treasure token. It's the same damage either way. Sylvan Library. Yep. Our opponent's going to be bearing us in card advantage pretty soon. Alright, deck. What helps us out of this spot? Not a Mox Diamond. I think we are making a friend. Pithing Needle doesn't help us much here. Shadowspear is unlikely to matter. I think it's the Aether Spellbomb. At least we can interfere with a creature that attack with just 1 creature. Alright, I'll pass the turn. Guy's Cradle, so Tabernacle is even more useless looking at what's going on over here. Oh dear. This is a lot of mana. 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. 9 mana. Is this Green Sun Zone for Crater Hoof? I don't think we're beating that one, are we? Oh, Morlock. That's pretty cool. We're not dead this turn, but it's not looking great for us. I'm going to attack with both creatures. They are. Just get rid of this Fury so that we're not dead. We just go to 4 while our opponent has a 9-9. We need to draw like 3 Maze of Iths right now somehow. Nope. We'll just go to game 2. Thoroughly dismantled right there. Cosmic's Return seems pretty good. They've got a lot of small little creatures. Haywire Might can blow up the Fable as well as Sylvan Library. That's not without use for sure. Endurance can stop opposing graveyards from mattering. Blue Blast, they're probably going to have Minsk and Boo as well. I would like to have this. And these are the 3 we definitely want. And then it's a case of, do you want any of this? So what lands we have that aren't useful? These all have text on them. That is useful in the matchup. I don't think we can board out any of our lands here. Aether Spellbomb seems fine. Pithing Needle seems fine. Shadowspear if we get into that sort of fight. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to work out what we're cutting here. I'm a little bit worried about our opponents messing with our artifacts. So I'm going to take 1 Mox Diamond out. That gives us a Kozilek's Return. And then we want Haywire Might and Blue Elemental Blast. So our opponent might have a Dark Depths combo of their own. So I think we're going to want Aether Spellbomb. It's also a nice tempo play if we're doing our loaming stuff at the same time. Am I being weird and boarding out more Mox Diamonds? It is an unusual play, but we could do something along that lines. Lean more heavily into Freestrider Lookout if we keep the Mox Diamonds in, because that becomes an earlier play. We'll board out one of our Dark Depths. I don't think we're trying to just Dark Depths combo our opponents super hard. Maybe we'll take out another Mox. Let's try this. We have it as a Saga action, that's for sure. I think I'll keep this. I don't really want to play out the Wastelandable green source, which is our only green source. I could play out the Saga and just start that ticking. I think that's reasonable. We don't need to get the full value off of this first time around. We can just get the Life from the Loam going. Blast Zone is better if you can play and pop it in a single turn without your opponent knowing it's coming. Green Sun Zenith. Someone that gets caught up by our Kozilek's Return in a couple of turns. Maze of Ith. Don't hate to see that one. So we're not going to be able to make a guy off of this. Can we deploy the Blast Zone or the Tabernacle? We play the Tabernacle. Next turn, we have 1 mana from this, 2 mana from our Mox, 3 for whatever land we play. So you can play the Tabernacle and still pressure them here with the Kozilek's Return. And Dried Arbor can tap to keep itself alive if that's the thing they're interested in. Right, they're tapping the Savannah to keep it alive. Not playing a fetch land here is great for us. Means Kozilek's Return is way more likely to be able to hit something like a Knight in the Reliquary. They're just coming in for attacks. They're not. That's suspicious. Let's get a Mox Diamond here. And what are we getting rid of here? It might be the Blast Zone. That's Wooded Foothills. Do I want to just draw a bunch of cards here off of this Life from the Loam? I think that's not a bad place to be. Taiga. I think a Tiger's fine here. Let's just draw 3 cards. Our opponent's got an Endurance. They can spend 2 cards to stop us from drawing 3 cards. They do want to do that. Okay. They pitched a Morlock for this. So our Life from the Loam doesn't do anything because we didn't have any targets for it. But we got 2 for 1, and the Life from the Loam is still in our graveyard, so we can still dredge it and do stuff with it. So we went all in on getting the value by using the fetch land instead of playing out the Saga, so we're going to be a little bit slower on making a threat. But we're trying to control this game out rather than just burst onto the scene with some threats. But we can obviously change things depending on what our opponent does. We've got the very slow Boseiju or their non-basics plan. Not a big fan of that because they obviously replaced themselves with the Boseiju. So they go get a basic. However, if we can find... Yeah, I'm happy to dredge this. I was going to say, if we can find a Wasteland, we can start Wasteland on our opponent. This is what I'm talking about. Tabernacle plus Loam Lock is pretty annoying. They keep leaving up their plateau, so that's going to be the one I hit here. Punishing Fire. Alright, our opponent's on like a Punishing Maverick, I guess. But we've very much got the squeeze on our opponent here. Right, they let their Dried Arbor go. A Noble Hierarch. Okay. I will be dredging this Life from the Loam. I'll be drawing these 2 cards. Alright, our opponent sees a writing on the wall and doesn't want to waste their time. I appreciate that. So now we're back to sideboarding. I think I like how I've approached this one. And we'll just go back in. Okay, our first sighting of an exploration and of our little lookout. I'm going to keep this one because I want to see how this plays. We don't have a red source, we can always go find one if we need to start sniping some creatures down. Taiga off our opponent into a Birds of Paradise. Mox Diamond would be a nice draw, actually. Didn't have a Mox Diamond, that's fine. So we only have one green source. So we do play out our exploration here. And I think we play out the Urza Saga and get that tick in, so we have options to make some takers if we want to. Next turn, we get to play our Freestrider Lookout. We could always go to get a Yavimaya first. Oh, that's an annoying Force of Vigor that just smashed into us there. If they have a Wasteland to follow up, that'll make me sad. Oh no, why did I say that? Uh-oh. We've reached Danger Town. At least they're not committing anything to the board, so we've got time. But we are in need of a green mana source, which is one of the problems you sometimes have with lands. Is the amount of coloured sources you have to cast your spells isn't always that many. So maybe we're not supposed to board out a couple of Mox Diamonds, but our opponent is probably going to have something along the lines of Collector Roof, Outland Liberator, things like that. Okay, our opponent's got a card advantage engine now. Commercial District. Yes, please. Let's have a little surveil action. Kozilek's Return. I'll put that on top of my library, because we might be able to sweep up a couple of creatures next turn in one go, and then put our opponent back. But if they find a Wasteland and take out our Commercial District, I think we might be losing this one. So it's an awkward position for us to be in. Right, they've kept one of the cards. They kept both the cards. I like it. I like going deep and often with the old Sylvan library. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, so we can clean up two things on our turn. Our opponent not make another land. Let's fire this off now before their birds is untapped. And then we can try and Freestrider Lookout. And we can crop rot for whatever, and then we can start getting some lands, and maybe this is going to be the thing that pulls us back into this game. Discarded a Plough and a Forest to the Fable of the Mirror Breaker trigger. Right, they found their third land. They're only at 7. There's maybe a world we try and finish off with Punishing Fires. But a single hit from Freestrider Lookout can do a lot of work here. Knight of the Reliquary. That is bigger than what we can deal with right now. Thespian's Stage. What does that achieve for us? It makes us a 2020. But 2020 into 9 the Reliquary doesn't seem good. If we play out this Thespian Stage, we can then... We need another green source so that we can do Crop Rotate, Punishing Fires to kill this. I think we're going to play the Lookout here. Our opponent binned off a Source Plowshare, so I don't think our opponent's playing removal as a main part of their strategy right now. And then next turn, every time we use this Thespian Stage to target one of their things, that's committing a crime. So we can start digging out into some more useful resources. Also, we can use this to get a green source. Alright, they have the Plough. I was kind of hoping they didn't have a Plough and they just decided they didn't need plows for the matchup right now. And that's why they discarded it. But nope, they just had 2. What fresh hell is this? Is this a Wasteland? No, a Cradle. Minskamboo. Yikes. Our opponent is doing a very similar thing to what we're doing, except they've just got more threats than we have. And that is proving problematic for us. These like green-white style decks feel really good in the meta to me right now. Now what? What is our trick to get out of here? Oh, okay. That is a very helpful one. But this is still a problem, but we can answer that soon. So if we go Punishing Fire, target this. So red and colourless. Okay, so we're going to take 8 from this Minskamboo. But then we can Karakas and stop this from hitting us, but then they're just going to have another 8 that they can throw at us if they want to do it that way. Or they can do us 4 and then do us another 4 by drawing cards this turn. I think the correct play for them is it to... It depends what they're worried about, really. But we're just getting gated on green mana, and that is how we're losing this one. So maybe I shouldn't have boarded out any Mox Diamonds. Of course, our opponent still has a bunch of cards in hand, so maybe they've got something to add some extra damage on the board. Could be tough. We now at least have a line to Marit Lage next turn. Oh, we've gone through 2 plows already. We take 8 this turn, 9, 10 if they want to throw both of them at us. It's going to be very tight as to whether we can actually win this game. I went to cast some spells, went back and forth on it a bit. Alright, so they're coming in for 6. So that feels like they're going to be drawing cards with Minskambu, which is a different problem. But that gives us a lot of life to work with compared to what we could have had this turn. This means they don't have 8 to throw at us next turn. Oh no, this is green sun's there for 4. Getting Knight of the Reliquary. Sorry, green sun's there for 3. This is a problem. This takes us off of our Merit line. Could draw a Yavimaya, that'd be nice. Expedition map. So, we're definitely killing this. I think that's a given. If we play 3 mana, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that gets us. I'm just gate on this mana so much. Right, we're definitely hitting this. And play our expedition map. So we get Karakas here. That provides us a decent amount of life to work with. I don't think Wasteland is doing anything for us here. It's just a Karakas, because this shuts off Minskambu. And then next turn we can untap and crop right into a creature when the time comes. Yeah, it's a tough game. The first game was a bit of a non-game in favour of our opponent. The second one was a bit of a non-game in favour of us. And this has been a decent chunk of back and forth. Sylvan Library, they can take an additional card if they want one. But there's 2 Punishing Fires in our graveyard, which might give them pause. Cracking Wooded Foothills. The reason as well for running Kozak's Return, if I didn't mention earlier, is this is colourless, so it can deal with Mother of Ruins and stuff like that. As opposed to something like Pyroclasm. Also instant speed is relevant too. A Fury. Hardcast Fury. There's a lot of damage. Yep, so they're going to come in for a whole bunch with this. And they can just throw this as well with a Minskambu, and that should be lethal. I did think about getting a Maze of Ith instead of a Karakas. I just didn't want them to build up counters. Yep, so this is going to hit us for 12. Yeah, we're just dead here. GG's opponent. That was a good game. We just couldn't quite get there. Our opponent's doing a similar stuff to us, but they're just a lot more threat dense. And they have good ways of getting around some of our stuff. So our Mana Denial, they have a bunch of Mana Dorks and Fable of the Mirrorbreaker tokens. The amount of threats they have, like things like Planeswalkers, are quite difficult for us to deal with too. Yeah, it was a tough one. Alright, let's go to round 2. We're on the draw. We've got a reasonable way into this one. We've got Life of Loam as well. Yeah, we'll keep this one. I would like something to speed us up a little bit. That's sadly not a thing we have access to right now. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 so far, so we're definitely going to want to try and start out with crop rotation available in case we need an emergency Bojuka Bog or something. Or a Wasteland to shut off their hand when they're working on diminished resources. See what the damage is over there for our opponent. City of Traitors. Trinisphere. Okay. I'm going to play a commercial district. Surveil a Mox Diamond. That can be helpful later on. I'll take this one for later. So next turn we can Boseiju this and then Wasteland their City of Traitors. No, we can't do both actually. We can only do one. But we can still Boseiju this if we want to. But although, do you even want to do that? I don't think so. Maybe we just want to wait to turn. Although, actually no, we can. Yeah, we can do both, right? Because if we play this and then Boseiju, then we can play our Mox Diamond. That seems good. Let's crack this. I'm going to go get Forest here. So we can Boseiju and hit this. Is that even a thing we need to do is another question. If our opponent's locked under their own Trinisphere, maybe we just let them be locked under their own Trinisphere. Alright, I think we'll do that. If our opponent's not playing lands, we can just Wasteland them out from underneath their Trinisphere. They might have a land in hand, they just want to wait till they have a 3-drop to play with it. Yeah, here we go. Right, here is Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. That's a pretty good one. I don't think we want to fire this off here. Or do we? If we fire this off here, that gives us the ability to do a lot more on our next turn. But if I want to keep our opponent locked underneath Trinisphere, let's see if there's a way we can kind of have our cake and eat it here. Right, I think we will take this out now. This gets our opponent a land. I'm assuming it's going to be a red land. There it is, yeah. So we can go and get a Wasteland. But this is irritating. We could just get towards Marit Lage combo. That's pretty reasonable. So we can do that as early as this turn if we want to. So this turn's... Yeah, we can just make a 20/20 next turn. That's fine. Mono red decks are decidedly poor at dealing with a Marit Lage once it's in play. Their whole plan is to try and Blood Moon you to stop it from happening, but we don't really care about Blood Moon from this position because we can just make our 20/20. We do have 2 copies of Depths in our deck. A Blood Moon. We have 2 options for this. Do you want to Boseiju here? I think we just make a 20/20. That's just easier. Like what we can do is we can let this come in, then we can go and get our thing, and then we can Boseiju it, or we can just make a 20/20, and this way our opponent won't have any mana available. If our opponent has a surprise Solitude in their deck and they're actually playing red-white, then we're going to feel very sad. But I still like the position we're in, even if this doesn't work, because we can just... Alright, our opponent's had enough. Yeah, we've got Life from the Loam going without that much pressure. Okay, this is a matchup where I would like some access to Force of Vigor and Haywire Might. Kozilek's Return deals with Magus of the Moon, and so does Blue Blast off of something like a Mox Diamond. So we want these 5 cards in. How useful is our graveyard going to be here? Because Life from the Loam is definitely something our opponent can have. This is not a Bojuka Bog matchup, so that's a free one we can cut. Karakas. I don't believe they're playing anything legendary and mono red these days, so we can take out the Karakas as well. Otawara is still handy. Everything else still has some merit in there. Shadowspear can sometimes be fine. We don't need the Saga Lantern. As I mentioned, the graveyard isn't a thing. Pithing Needle can name Broadside Bombardiers or the little Fable guy, and that's pretty reasonable. I don't really like bouncing their guys because they just come back and are more annoying. I do like the Punishing Fires. Do I want to trim on 1 Life from the Loam in case our opponent's got a Tabernacle coming in? Does that make me want these Sylvan Libraries? I don't hate the Sylvan Library. Alright, so let's have a couple of Loams out for a couple of Libraries. Oh, actually, no, let's try and work out. Do I want a Crucible or do I want a Loam? Loam is green to pitch to Force of Vigor, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with the green card count. And we're keeping the Loam so we can diversify things. That way they can't Surgical if that's what they're on. It's unlikely, but... Okay. Hello, Exploration. Hello, green mana source. And even if they do Blood Moon on turn 1, we have Expedition Map to go and find what we need. We've also got the combo rolled up eventually here, if that's how we're going to try and win this one. I like our hand here. Our opponent did keep 7, though. City of Traitors into Chrome Mox. Is that Shadow Skull Smashing underneath it? A Trinisphere. Okay, we're going to be on the slow road here. Our opponent's got prison pieces rather than aggressive elements, and that gives us the time to just play these lands in our hand and be fine. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. That's a very good one. I don't think I'm interested in getting anything other than a basic forest with this, so I'm not going to crack this. Tropical Island. I think we're going to do Thespian Stage here. This puts us closer to comboing off. Like we could have started off with like a Yavimaya in play or something, but I think it was more important to have access to a basic forest. And this way we can save our crop rotation to get our actual combo instead of having to play the Yavimaya and then firing off into a crop rotation to make sure that we have access to green mana. If our opponent played like a Eternal Blood Moon or something. Our opponent could have a card like Dead Gone that answers Marit Lage. That does cost 3 mana though, so that's a lot of mana they have to keep up to do that. But if they're ahead on board enough at the time, they can just keep attacking with whatever they've got. Broadside Bombardiers being a very good thing to attack with. If we were on the play with our hand, we probably would have won this game by now. But instead we're going to take probably 6 this turn. They just throw that treasure token at us, I would imagine. They might not do, but we'll see. Yep, a throw in treasure token. Broadside Bombardiers doing the work. An exploration. We're going to get our basic forest. Play this Yavimaya. And play this ugly 3 mana exploration. Gets us this Tropical Island. So next turn we can make a Marit Lage. 3 mana to crop rotate, and then we'll have the Yavimaya giving us the extra mana we need. So we need our opponent to not really kill us in the next turn or 2. How likely is that? I think we take 6 this turn, but maybe they just go, okay, we're actually going to hit you for 9. And then we're basically dead to they're just attacking next turn. If they just throw the reflection at us now. Depends how much they value getting the broadside bombardiers going. And getting the damage in. Another Trinisphere. Okay, we're definitely getting a Trinisphere thrown at our face now. Yep, so they're going to throw the Trinisphere for a nice little lava axe. And that's going to put us at a very precarious 4. So as soon as the broadside bombardiers attacks, we lose the game. It's not really how I want this one to go. What is our solution to this? Tabernacle. Tabernacle forces them to pay a bunch of mana to keep their guys alive, but doesn't stop them from killing us. We can bounce the broadside bombardiers at the start of combat, but then they can copy it with reflection. Maze of Ith isn't going to save us here. Okay, so we play out the Tabernacle, and then we have to hope that we can Otawara them in a favourable position. I don't think we have any... if we crop rotate now for Wasteland, take out their City of Traitors, they pay for their broadside bombardiers and their reflection, and we die. Alright. So we need them to make a mistake here. So what they might do is just target the broadside bombardiers right now, and then let the reflection die. Right, they paid for the reflection. Bombardiers, they're going to pay for this one as well. They've got a treasure token if they want it. Right, they're using their Chrome Mox. So if they don't activate this reflection of Kikijiki until we do a thing, then we lose. They don't want to get a second broadside here. So if we bounce this, they copy it, and then they kill us. I don't believe we have a solution here. I'll attack him with all 3. That was a surprise. Yep, they just immediately throw. Yeah, nothing we could do there. Alright. I think I like how I've sideboarded here. There is an argument for endurance just as a beefy guy, but I think it might be a little bit difficult sometimes for us to get the green. I think we're just going to go in. Also, on its own, it doesn't block Bombardiers, which is basically the only threat we really care about from our opponent's deck. Fable's annoying, but it's the Bombardiers, as you saw, that just does all the damage and puts us in the dirt. Sure, we can keep this one. Relying on this expedition map a little bit, but we have removal for scary things, and we can always go and get the Punishing Fires and just control their board. I'm going to play out like this rather than using the Moxes. We can always go and fetch something with the expedition map to put into the Mox if we need green mana. Under like a Blood Moon or something. A Blood Moon. Okay. We can go and get Dark Depths and put Dark Depths in with no counters if we find something like a Force of Vigor. Or a Haywire Might. That's pretty good, isn't it? I think we crack this. Go get Dark Depths. Play the Dark Depths. So this comes in with no counters because of Blood Moon. So as soon as this goes away, we're all good. So what we're trying to do is draw a green source. Any land next turn, so we can access our green source in the form of Mox Diamond. And then we can just play Haywire Might, destroy their Blood Moon, and then all of a sudden our opponent is facing down in 2020. Our opponent might, if they've got Dead or Gone, they might just hold it up this turn, because playing that Dark Depths is a bit of a statement of intent right there. They got a second Blood Moon? No. Okay, Fable. Sure, if we find any land, we can do both Haywire Might and shooting this Goblin Shaman token down. We found any land. Big fan of drawing any land. So this makes a Haywire Might. And fire this one down now as well. And pass. So if we have a 2020 instant speed and we want it. If our opponent holds up 3 mana and doesn't commit anything, then maybe they have Dead Gone and we're supposed to wait. We'll see how many cards they discard as well. A Trinit Sphere. Okay, that just confirms we win the game, right? So we hit this, paying green. This goes away. Dark Depths becomes 2020. Our opponent can't cast any spells because they're in Trinisphere. And in comes the big Marilage. Alright, we managed to get that one. I like Turbo Depths into Mono Red, and Lands has some similar options available to it. So it doesn't seem too bad either. Alright, let's go to round 3. This is a relatively quick Marilage combo if that's how I want to play it. And you know me, that's how I like to play things. So we can do turn 1 Thespian stage, play 2 Mox Diamonds. Turn 2 Grim Monolith, okay. So turn 2 we can then just crop rotate into Marilage. So maybe this speedy one is where we need to be. So we play out this. Play out this one. I think the Maze of Ith can go. I don't think this is the Maze of Ith matchup. Alright, let's see if turn 2 Marilage is good enough. Our opponent's going to be doing some busted artifact-based shenanigans, whether it's like paradoxical outcome, coveted jewel, that sort of jam. I don't know. Could be mono brown, just one ring, Mystic Forge, Karn combo. Karn obviously not great for us right now. Island cycling. Okay, so our opponent is a blue deck. I can still play a Karn here, which would make me very sad. No Karn. We do have to worry about counter spells from our opponent if they're showing us blue mana. Which of these would I most like to keep around? I think Grove might be more useful. Try and work out what... I think I will... No, I'm going to play the Yavimaya. This way we have double crop rotation if that's the thing we're desperate for. So our opponent plays something like a Karn, then maybe we have to pivot into a different plan. Another Grim Monolith. They got mana, that's for sure. We can go for it this turn and next turn. So I think I am just going to go for it here. Because if they counterspell this, that's 2 cards out of our opponent's hand. We untap, play this Grave of the Burnwillows, and I represent the exact same play next turn. Would I like to wasteland my opponent here? I don't think so. It doesn't feel like mana's the gate here. Maybe we're supposed to play the wasteland out and then use the Mox Diamond for green and then sacrifice that. But giving our opponent 1 life doesn't matter when they're at 15. Which is something you have to keep in mind sometimes in the world of... Oh, Paradox Engine. Yikes. In the world of Dark Depths, you need to be careful. You don't give your opponent additional life at awkward moments. Alright, is the last cards in hand Force of Will blue card? Or do we have you? Let's get Dark Depths. Let's do my favourite thing of making a big 2020. Let's go attacks. Alright, so we got game 1. Which is certainly an unexpected bonus here. I think Flusterstorm is a weird one here. Our opponent did show us blue stuff, so there could be things like copy artifact and stuff like that, but that doesn't get hit by the Flusterstorm. So it's kind of a combo deck where our Flusterstorms aren't actually doing what we want them to, which is a little bit awkward. So I think we're just boarding in our 3 pieces of artifact hate and then just going to get pounded repeatedly by our opponent. That's what I'm expecting to happen. Do I think this is a Karakas matchup? I don't believe it is. Tabernacle, I don't think this is a Tabernacle matchup either. Bojuka Bog might have some text. They have got Emeries or something like that. Or if they have Emery, then we might want Karakas back in. Maze of Ith. This is not likely to be a Maze of Ith matchup. They might have Wormcoil Engine as a pivot, so I think I want to keep 1 Maze of Ith in for that. Blaststone can obviously take out a bunch of their things. Wastelands is one of the only ways we actually get to fight our opponent. We definitely want the Pithing Needle. I don't think this is a Shadowspear matchup. We don't really need to gain life. Aether Spellbomb, if they are running the Wormcoil pivot, might be useful to have. The Punishing Fires don't look great, but that's one of our only ways of pressuring a Karn, so we have to keep those. Pithing Needle on the 1 ring is going to be pretty nice. Obviously, you keep our tutor here. We have mentioned that graveyard stuff might be useful via Emery, so keeping that. Yeah, I think this is probably what it looks like. I really want to do some Freestrider Lookout stuff, but we just haven't really got to that yet. Speaking of Freestrider Lookout, I will take it. Hopefully, this won't just be a Freestrider Lookout that gets pitched to Force of Vigor. But I am aware of the possibility. Lotus Petal, Islands, and nothing else. Alright. Our opponent did show us a show and tell in the previous game, which is probably just going to be putting in a coveted jewel. There's that one of Maze of Ith I wasn't particularly excited about. So let's get rid of that into the Mox Diamond. I don't think we need to play the Saga Lantern just yet. I would quite like to get the trigger off of it, because when we target a card in their graveyard, that's committing a crime, so we get to look with some land with our lookout. But our opponent should be able to win with not that many resources here. If they can just string together something like a 1 ring, because we have interaction for some of their stuff, just not all of it. We could try and Force of Vigor their 2 artifacts. And here's the thing that we're allowed to do. Okay, I'll play an Exploration. I'll play a couple of lands. This gives us hard cast Force of Vigor next turn. Let's get the Lookout going. This is kind of going a bit shields down for our opponent's turn. But this gives us a creature that can pressure Karn, if that's where they're going. And that can be quite an important thing too. I don't know if I've seen enough to work out the ins and outs of our opponent's build just yet. Show and Tell makes me think we are on coveted jewel though. And Paradox Engine means that there's definitely going to be some 1 rings in there. Another Grim Monolith. Transmute Artifact. This is going to go and get them the 1 ring, I believe. Oh, they're going for coveted jewel. Sure. That's pretty good too. Can they just keep going and combo us off here? If we'd have kept the Force of Vigor, we might have been able to stop this. Copy Artifact. So this is then going to copy the Coveted Jewel and give them 3 more looks and 3 more mana. You know, I took the line to try and win this game rather than lose this game slower. I think we could have held up the... I suppose what we... maybe we should have just played the Freestrider Lookout and then held up the Force of Vigor Exploration. That would have been a little bit better. But our opponent should be able to win this game now. I wouldn't mind to know if there's a card or not. But I don't really want to have to sit through my opponent doing this. Okay, they're wondering, are they going to stop here? Probably not. This should be game. We don't need to keep playing this one. Yeah, if we'd have just played out the Freestrider Lookout, we could have blown up their 2 artifacts in the upkeep, and that might have been a bit better. Is that worth any changes? I don't think. No, we just have to try and cut our opponent's legs out from underneath them a little bit. This matchup feels like it should be pretty horrible for us. This hand doesn't really do anything. This hand has the Force of Vigor that we require. Also has a Blast Zone and a Boseiju, which are not nothing. I think we ship back the Karakas, play our Forest, have an emergency crop rotation if we need it. But the way we're playing this game is just not really leveraging particularly useful tools against what our opponent's doing. We don't have the time to get our grind on, and they've got a bunch of basics, which means that our easiest way of cutting things out from underneath them is gone, because Wasteland is something they get to play around relatively easily. We don't have any big hammers for artifacts, like Energy Flux style cards or Collector Roofs, that sort of jam. Another Grim Monolith. I'm going to see the One Ring. We are. I don't think we're winning. We need that Pithing Needle. We could crop rotate right now for it and start stacking it up. Then they're going to get 1 turn. I think we have to do that. This gets this little counter. And then it goes up to second mode there. This should tell our opponent what we're working towards. We have a Force of Vigor that we can fire off, but next time we get the Pithing Needle, we can shut down the One Ring that way. But our opponent gets however many cards they can draw this turn off of it. So they've got things like Manifold Key. They might be able to double dip and get loads of cards. Seagate Reborn, tapped. Okay, that's a good sign for us. We have a win condition. It's called the One Ring. Our opponent might have things like Repeal in their deck. So we've got 1 mana here, 2 mana here. I think I want to get this Freestrider Lookout down. Do I want this Mox Diamond down or not? I don't think so. It's a case of do I want to have this Boseiju in hand or this Mox Diamond? Or the Dark Depths. This is tough because the Boseiju is something that we might be able to fire off and have some use for. I think we're going to play this and bin off this Dark Depths. And I am going to go a little bit shields down to cast this. So we don't have access to the Force of Vigor. We can play this so that we are more likely to have Force of Vigor next turn in the hard cast mode. But this is the thing that we can have anyway that will give us a look at some more lands. Right, more basic islands for our opponent. There is a Crow Mox. What is this? Forge the Anchor, is it? No, Force of Negation, sure. The One Ring. So this will prevent some damage, and they can get rid of their 1 with 2 counters on. So they're not going to be taking damage for a little bit. Crucible of Worlds. That is worth me playing this Boseiju out for, I think. Alright. So now we can get the Urza Saga next turn. That gives us... There's no point attacking here, because our opponent's got protection from everything. This gives us hardcast Force of Negation mana as well. And our opponent gives us some good targets. City of Traitors. So mana is definitely not our opponent's choke point, so I don't want to just fire off this Force of Vigor on some of their mana. The One Ring. Yep, our opponent just loves being protected. Play our Urza Saga. And pass the turn. So we can just Force of Vigor to try and get a look at 5 cards for our Freestrider Lookout. But I'd like to have a worthwhile target to hit. I don't really care about this Crow Mox. I want something big like a Paradox Engine or something. No, this is the Paradox Engine. 6 mana. A Coveted Jewel. Okay, I wouldn't mind stealing this off of our opponent. If our opponent plays like a copy artifact here, then we blow up the Coveted Jewel while it's on the stack. And then you just have to copy one of these artifacts. That doesn't really do anything. Copy artifact. Okay. Let's get rid of this and this. Green. Green. 1, 2. We get to commit a crime. Another Urza Saga is probably reasonable. Alright, no coveted jewels. This copy artifact will be a copy of the One Ring, give them protection for a turn unless they want a Grim Monolith. They want an untapped Grim Monolith when they already have lots of mana. Hard to say. Because it went to as a copy of the One Ring, they'll still get their trigger from it. Because they did cast this particular card. Right, so they're getting the One Ring. Just buy themselves another turn without getting hit for anything. Right. We've got some tools available to us now. So we could learn from the Loam and get back Forest Dark Depths and play the Forest. And then we got 2 turns of trying to do that. No, I don't think we need to do that. We're just going to make a bunch of constructs so we can activate both. And that'll give us a decent amount of damage. We could have played the Forest instead of this Karakas. But having more stuff in the graveyard for our Life from the Loam is also nice. If that's what we want to do. We didn't want to play the Dark Depths because it doesn't tap for mana right now. Transmute Artifact. Sure. A coveted jewel. Back to this old chestnut again. So there's 2 jewels down in their deck, but they've still got a bunch of copy artifact effects and like Phyrexian Metamorph as well. But we should be able to attack and steal these coveted jewels off of our opponent next turn. Because the text on this is whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls attacks and they aren't blocked. So it doesn't even matter if they have protection as long as we can just attack. Then we draw 3 cards and gain their coveted jewel untapped. Which is pretty strong. There is a Lotus Petal. And another one. Another jewel. 7 mana. Seagate Restoration. It's a lot of cards. They're going to need some fast mana here. Otherwise they're going to get bopped for a huge amount of damage here. Is it lethal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we have lethal damage next turn. Make some large friends. And we just make some more. And then we get some artifacts. And each of these is going to be a 9/9. Alright, we got the GGs there. Yeah, I think this matchup is probably quite horrible for us. We did have that one clutch Force of Vigor here. And in game 2, we maybe could have had a Force of Vigor and we'd done a slightly better play by playing out the Lookout instead of messing around with Exploration, just use it as our green card. I think that was an error, but we did manage to come away with a win. I feel a little bit fortunate that our opponent's hand didn't really do very much in game 1 as well. But we got there, so let's go to round 4. Alright, what does our hand do? It's a little bit slow, but we can just do some Urza Saga stuff. We do have a Life from the Loam. I'm going to give it a reluctant keep. We play out the Forest and Shadowspear. And then we can untap, play Saga, possibly put the Life from the Loam into the graveyard. Well, that doesn't seem like an amazing thing for us to be doing. When our mana's going to be tied up for a couple of turns anyway. So we're probably not going to be using this Life from the Loam until after our Urza Saga is popped. Okay, white mana. Blue-white mana. So if our opponent's like a slow blue-white control deck, maybe we're going to have time to leverage this Urza Saga for max value, which is handy. They shuffle their library as well. You don't see many blue-white combo decks outside of Cephalid Breakfast. Right, let's play Urza Saga. I'm not sure what I'm naming with the Pithing Needle, so I'm not just going to play this Pithing Needle out now. I don't know if we're fighting Stoneforges or if we're fighting Cephalid Breakfast or Narsets or Teferis or whatever. Okay, a Wasteland. Bit rude, but it's fine. We've got another one. And we just pick that one straight up again with this. Well, if this is a matchup where Urza Saga is good, then we're golden. Let's just get back this Urza Saga. Should be a good Force of Negation target if they've got them in the main deck. Our plan is very much just keep making Saga constructs. If our opponent's got things like Dress Down, they can obviously interfere with us that way. The Wasteland does tell us that our opponent isn't playing Cephalid Breakfast though. That is not a card you would see in Cephalid Breakfast. So it could be Stoneblade. A lot of control decks run Wasteland just to deal with problem cards like Urza Saga. Or they could be Bant, and they might be using Wastelands to deal with things like Karakas as well. When their main threat base is things like Uro. Polluted Delta. So it could be on the Esper train. I will not dredge that yet. I will play out a Wasteland. I don't want to show me Otawara, and it's more useful in hand than it is in play anyway. If they've got black mana, Okay, so we don't have to worry about Orcish Bowmasters because we're not drawing extra cards, and our Saga's tokens will be bigger than a Orcish Bowmaster ping. Would I be okay blocking? I don't think I want to block either of these creatures to attack. It depends if our opponent has something to go with it, or has done the calculation that we probably don't want to block, because if we just wait a turn, we're going to have much bigger creatures, and that's better for us. A Wasteland. I'll just take the 2. That's fine. Let's make a friend. I'm going to Wasteland now. Petty Theft. Okay. Now they're going to Wasteland? They're going to Wasteland our Wasteland. Okay. That stops us from making a construct token this turn. I will Dredge Life from Loam. Thank you for asking. Can get Mox Diamond here. Get this Maze of Ith. And let's cast a Life from Loam on these 3. A Daze. I got another one. Got a Force of Will. Pitching attracts a Grand Unifier. So I think we're up against the Esper Rescaminator deck, which is good to know. Tells us that Graveyard Hate is more important than I had previously prioritized it. Threw us off the scent a little bit with their Tundra, which made sense because they wanted to keep their information off of the Black Land in their hand, and the Tundra was the one they care about getting Wasteland at least, so that's what you lead out on. You shouldn't really be worried about this clock. Okay, our opponent didn't want to get Wasteland locked, and they scooped it up. Interesting. I think we want some Surgical Extractions because they're going to have some graveyard shenanigans here, which means Endurances also look good. Flusterstorm has some activity, but I'm not sure if that's where I want to be. Kozilek's Return is a nice way to sweep up like the other side of what their deck does, so like Doughty Voidwalkers, Orcish Bowmasters, Griefs, that sort of thing all get swept up by Kozilek's Return quite nicely. So this is tempting me. And I do like Sylvan Library. Not great into Bowmasters, but you don't have to choose to use it. So these are things I'm interested in. What does not seem good here? I don't think we really need the Pithing Needle here. Is this a Shadowspear matchup? If it gets grindy, we might want the life gain to sort of get us back into it. How do I feel about crop rotation into a heavy Counterspell deck? The problem is we do need the crop rotations to go and get our Karakas and stuff when we're in trouble. So I don't think we're really removing any of our lands here. So how many slots have we opened up? 1. That's not very many, is it? So let's add in a Surgical Extraction, and then we can decide what we're doing about the rest of them. I like this Freestrider Lookout because it can apply some pressure, and if we get our opponent's life total down, it makes it difficult for them to do reanimate lines. So maybe we can't afford to have the Shadowspear here, and we'll take this Surgical Extraction. I would like these libraries. Then we'll probably trade a Loam for a library, and then we need to find 1 or 2 slots for these. That's a tough choice. If we're on the control plan, maybe we don't need 2 Dark Depths. We can trim 1 of those. That gets us this. Are we trimming a Mox? The Mox helps us play the turn 2 Sylvan Library though. That's the only issue. Does that mean we're getting rid of an Expiration? Or Mox we can always find off of our... Okay, we're going to trim 1 Mox. I like 3 Mox in like Green-White Depths decks and stuff like that, so why not have 3 here? We've got some Graveyard Hate. We have all of our Graveyard Hate, but the rest of our hand doesn't do anything. Is that acceptable? I think given time, we do win against their regular fair hands, so I will keep this. But let it be known, we are in search of some action here. Punishing Fire is action of a sort, isn't it? Play out this Grove and cast this Soulguide Lantern. You can see something like a Crack Entomb Daze. Force of Will on the Soulguide Lantern. Our hand looks great. If they're Force of Willing a Soulguide Lantern, we're going to have it absolutely off with these Surgicals. And we can wait till our opponent casts something as well, so we can get a 2-for-1 off of the Surgical. Yeah, our opponent's not going to like us. Alright, they're just completely off it, and we got a quick win there for that round. Don't mind if I do. It's always nice taking down the big bad guy of Rescaminator. Going into the final round, we are currently 3-1, so pretty tasty. Let's see if we can get that 4-1. We've got a bit of an awkward looking hand here for the final round. We don't have any engines. We kind of have like bits of stuff. I think we have to mulligan this. Okay. Keep this and we'll get rid of this Dark Depths. So the plan is to draw a mana source. Play this one out. And we'll play out our Soulguide Lantern just to make sure we've got that. We have to we've done that wrong. We should have done that so we didn't have to exile or anything. That was a mistake. I forgot that the Saga Lantern is has to target. An Ancient Tomb from our opponent into a Chrome Mox. So we can sacrifice the Saga Lantern to draw a card, if that's the thing we need to do. A Goblin Rabble Master. Sure, that's a guy. I'm going to take one here. This is a matchup where we don't need the Saga Lantern, so we're happy to cycle this. If we had the second land in hand, we could leave this in play to make our constructs bigger. But I think we have to just try and make sure we guarantee that next land. Right, there it is. We could play the 3-3. But I think just making construct, maybe sticking Shadowspear on it feels like a solid way to outscale our opponent here. Broadside Bombardiers. Okay, so if we make a construct and try and block, they'll just shoot it down. If we wait a turn, it becomes harder to shoot down, but our opponent does more damage to us. Okay, I think we're going to lose game 1 here. Unlicensed Hearse. Is this just going to be throwing us for 4 damage immediately? No? Let's go Taiga. I guess they can still throw a creature now if they want to. Alright, they didn't kill our guy. So we have to get another Mox Diamond here. Or we could get the Pithing Needle and name the Broadside Bombardiers. That seems pretty good, doesn't it? We can play out this Wasteland. We're sort of stabilising. If we can play a 3-3, that'll help too. We probably have to block the Rabble Master. Stingerback Terror. That's a large creature, isn't it? This is like a job for Maze of Ith. So all of their guys have to attack. Let's see what they choose to attack with. They're leaving back the Rabble Master. They are. So we can take 3 either way. So we may as well just double block this guy. Because this guy has Menace and can push through next turn. Okay, so we need to use Maze of Ith to deal with the Stingerback Terror. A land would be good. That allows us to crop rotate and Freestrider Lookout. So, green, 1, 1. We'll get a friend. I don't believe we're attacking. Feels a little bit foolhardy. This does have reach, but we also have Life from the Loam. No, not Life from the Loam. Crop rotation for Maze of Ith. A Scorpion Dragon. Don't see that every day. A Trinisphere. Well, I've got a response to that one. Let's go to this Wasteland. Get a Maze of Ith. Maze of Ith. It has to be Maze of Ith here. What Maze of Ith also does is commits a crime every turn if they attack, which is pretty bananas. Oh, don't be Blood Mooning me. It's not the one, is it? Right, so this has to block. We take 4 from this because it's got Trample. And then we take 2 and 2. Yeah, we are just dead. So close. If we didn't have the Blood Moon, I was curious to see how that play out with our Maze of Ith. Getting us a bunch of extra card advantage, but was not to be. Force of Vigor, Haywire Might, Kozilek's Return, Blue Blast. These all seem pretty good. Sylvan Library is an interesting option as well. We don't need Graveyard Hate, so they can get out. We don't need Karakas, so that can get out. Aether Spellbomb isn't really where we need to be here either. Pithing Needle was useful, Shadowspear useful, Expedition Map useful. Punching Fire is good. I want to do some more Freestrider Lookout stuff. I'm trying my best over here. I think we need to keep our Moxes so we can play around Blood Moon more easily. Crop rotation seems pretty clutch here too. If we're boarding in the libraries, we're probably boarding out a couple of Loams. And that gives us one more cut to find, so maybe it's just an exploration here. I think the Mox Diamond is better than exploration because it can give us coloured mana underneath the Blood Moon when we need green. This is kind of an ugly one. It can be a Blood Moon quite effectively. Do I want to try and cheese our opponent that way? Because we can go crop rotate into Dark Depths, and then any land gives us Mox Diamond, Boseiju, their Blood Moon. And any land also gives us the Freestrider Lookout as well. So then we're just going to lead off on our basic here, and then pass. Right, we're just looking to draw another mana source, which is a thing our deck has an absolute abundance of. A basic mountain. No play. I don't think I want to be playing, getting the Surveil land there. We need to have our... Don't like this situation, but... Okay, I'm going to play out this. Get rid of our Boseiju. It does get rid of the Dark Depths line I mentioned, but this holds up Punishing Fire for the turn. Not hitting a land is a bit sad. I think the lands deck encourages you to keep some hands with lower land just because it's the most abundant thing in the deck by quite a margin. We can crop rotate, but it will come at the cost of a land that could be our basic forest, because we don't have another forest here. Magus of the Moon. I will crack this for a basic forest. You can have your Magus of the Moon. So now we can do the plan that I said before. Sure, I'm here to cast Dark Depths. It's my jam, isn't it? So we have the removal spell for this. We ideally want our opponent to not have 3 mana up. This feels a little sketchy. We'll go for it though. Is there going to be a dead god in our future? There is. This means we're playing the Crucible of Worlds so we can get our forest back next turn. Or our Dark Depths. A Blood Moon. I think we just want to get our forest in play before anything bad happens to it. Let's get our Freestrider Lookout. It's big. It beats 2/2s. A Broadside Bombardiers. It's going to attack because it has Menace. It can't throw enchantments, only artifacts or creatures. So our Freestrider Lookout is not going to get killed unless they play something second main phase. They'd have to play a 1-drop, at least, to have the 3 damage going. Another crop rotation. That's not really what I'm about, is it? Alright, we'll play the Dark Depths out. We technically win this race, but our opponent can just play other creatures. So Rabblemaster or other Bombardiers. Chalice of the Void, X equals 2. And 0. So they've shut off our Punishing Fires. However, Punishing Fires still triggers committing a crime. Right, they're just throwing stuff at us. Otawara. Okay, that's pretty big news, isn't it? Let's play this one out. Because we can use this Mox Diamond mana to make blue. We bounce the Blood Moon. We get a 20/20. That sounds like game to me. A Goblin Rabblemaster. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. Let's commit a crime. Oh, what's that? My Dark Depths is waking up. I will block your 1/1 with my 20/20. Okay. So we just need to do a similar thing again. Let's go back in. We've got quite a nice selection of answers for Blood Moon here. We have an answer for Blood Moon. We can just race to 20/20, or we can play this Freestrider Lookout. We've even got another answer to Blood Moon. This seems great. Chalice of the Void, X equals 0. That is annoying for the purposes of our little Blood Moon. Do we want to get this Haywire Might in play, or do we want this Commercial District? I think we want a District. Get that green mana going. Force of Vigor, yes please. That is exactly the sort of card I'm looking for. Alright, we just have loads of answers for Blood Moon, and a thing that we want our opponent to actively play Blood Moon to enable. We need to have multiple Blood Moons. Null Rod. Okay. That shuts off our Haywire Might, but we already have the next bit of our puzzle sorted. Can we jam this? Get some cards going. Just need our opponent to play a Blood Moon, which is a weird position to be in. But it happens quite a lot when you play Dark Depths decks, because people are so ready to Blood Moon you. Oh, did they not hit there? Interesting. No land. I very much like to use his ability. I guess we'll put this on top of the library because I don't really want this. We don't really want this one either. So I suppose we're having to play this Otawara out. We just get our little guy in and start doing things with it. Our opponent found a land. There is the Blood Moon that we've been waiting for. Yes, we'll use the library. Put this on top and this on top. We will play our Dark Depths out. We will attack. We get to take the top cards off our opponent, off of our deck using this Force of Vigor. We want our opponent to tap out for something, and then we play this up. So if it's another Blood Moon, we can respond on the stack. Force of Vigor away there. Blood Moon, and does it matter which other one we take? Probably the Null Rod, because that frees up our Haywire Might as well. But the Null Rod also shuts down their Unlicensed Hearse, if that's the thing that they're doing. A Fable of the Mirror Breaker, sure. 1 card in our opponent's hand. Let's go to this Blood Moon and get rid of probably just Fable here. No, I think it is the Null Rod. So that lets us take out the next thing a bit more easily as well. Alright, our opponent's scoop into that. Blood Moon, you are my friend, as it turns out whenever I play decks with Dark Depths in. So we finished with a pretty tasty 4-1. The only deck we lost to was a deck that was very similar to ours in a lot of respects, with like a nice land package, but they had a slimmer land package in total and had more threats, so they just kept playing threats and we were behind. So yeah, a 4-1 was pretty respectable. we all know lands is a good deck in Legacy and what it can do. I think it's very good into a world of scam and things like that. And with goblins out of the way now due to the sticker goblin ban, I think it's a good sign for lands. The question is, how good is Freestrider Lookout? That's what everyone wants to know. So once upon a time, we used to play Tireless Tracker in lands, and it was pretty reasonable. It was just a nice card advantage engine, but it was kind of doing a similar thing to like Sylvan Library in terms of how it played out a lot of the time. It was that thing that kind of got you to the extra bits and pieces you need. This one is a little bit different. It's not as mana intensive once it's in play, but you do need stuff to go with it. We triggered it a few times, and we did get into a game where if our opponent didn't have the double spell of Trinisphere into Blood Moon exactly, we would have been able to get a little bit of value off of our Maze of Ith. Having this and Maze of Ith feels like a really cool thing to do, but we didn't get to do that today. You know, it's a shame, but I think we have a lot of tools here. I imagine in Delver matchups, this card is going to be great as long as it doesn't just get lightning bolted on sight, which is a risk of a 3 toughness creature. But I'd be certainly curious to see how this pans out and if more people start playing it. I do like the card. I think it's got a very high upside of getting a free card from the top 5, like every turn, possibly every single turn, not just every turn cycle. So that's something to keep an eye on. Maybe you need to play something that goes into this a little bit more. So maybe you play, I understand the Punishing Fires to go with it, but you could play something like black-green lands where you're playing more like Raven's Crime type stuff, because then you can just do that every turn and just churn through your deck in a different fashion. So that's probably something I'll build up and play at some point if I get time before Modern Horizons 3 drops. As the rest of this deck, I don't think there's anything that really needs to be spoken about. What I will say, though, is I think the best land builds at the moment are the green-white ones, where they have access to Swords to Plowshares, because that just helps you recover from a big reanimated creature or something spooky that, you know, having a hard piece of removal is a lot better than having a Punishing Fire. But I do enjoy the engine of the Punishing Fire and the Freestrider Lookout. That is a nice combo together. Perhaps it'll end up being... there's a new green-white card from Modern Horizons 3 coming out. It's just green-white for a 2-2 that makes all other creatures 2-2s. So if you have Freestrider Lookout, it will be a 2-2, but then you can gun everything down with Punishing Fires whilst digging for more lands in your sort of Punishing Maverick deck. And that sounds like a pretty tasty thing, because you're always going to be making your Punishing Fire count, whereas sometimes they don't right now because you need to kill bigger creatures. So I do think the best land builds are the ones with the plows and the Sphere of Resistances. But I had fun playing this one. We made quite a lot of 2020s, more so than I was expecting. You normally, tend to grind people out with your Wastelands or your Sagas, but, I love Wasteland and people, and I love making 2020s, so this deck will always have a soft spot in my heart, even if it's not my go-to in paper, due to selling a bunch of the pricier cards at some point. And my Tabernacle I sold as well, so I don't get to play this in paper anymore. Anyway, ramble over. I hope you enjoyed this one and a bit of Freestrider Lookout action. Please remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out quite a lot, and it means you don't miss any of the Modern Horizons 3 stuff that will be coming out next month on my channel as soon as I get my hands on those, which will be as soon as they're released, because I now have a Daybreak Games account as part of their partnership, so I get everything immediately. So there's no delay on content. You'll all be in your face as soon as possible. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.